Story 1. I do not watch Jimmy Kimmel, but the damage has already been done. It is good that the show has been reinstated, but its removal demonstrates that freedom of speech and protection from censorship are not guaranteed and remain under threat. Story 2. If he starts the show by apologizing, I will be disappointed. Story 3. Honestly, the biggest thing I hope we can learn from this is that we can actually make an impact when we try. Too often, people discourage others by saying it is real life, not Reddit and similar things. It is easy to fall into the pessimism of thinking there is nothing we can do, but we just did. This was entirely the result of enough people deciding to try to make something instead of listening to those who said nothing would change. He is just a comedian. This is not a big deal, but it can be an important lesson. Story 4. I hope that Jimmy only agrees to it if there are no new restrictions on what he can joke about. It's still not free speech if the government is telling him what he can and can't joke about. Story 5. I will not subscribe to Disney+. They immediately bent the knee to fascism. It is going to take a great deal more to undo the damage to their brand, in my view. Story 6. I don't like Kimmel, but this should never have happened. They won't get my money again. Just more things to watch on pirated streaming sites. Fuck them. Story 7. We lost a large amount of money. Please forget that we bowed to fascists despite a large war chest and some of the best lawyers available to fight an obviously unconstitutional threat. No, you lost my money on principle. I don't care if you reneged. Story 8. I hope people continue to cancel their Hulu and Disney Plus accounts. The American Broadcasting Company is not taking responsibility for what they did. They have a merger underway. The government said it would hold up the merger if they did not remove J.K. from the air, but the American Broadcasting Company is acting like he was pulled off the air for what he said. Meanwhile, on Fox, someone said they should euthanize homeless people, and all he had to do was apologize. Until the American Broadcasting Company admits the J.K. matter was about the merger, I think people should continue to apply pressure. Story 9. The tipping point was that actors, writers, and directors were going to start boycotting Disney. This is all on Bob Iger. He failed to do the right thing the first time. Story 10. It took way too long. The first indication of public outcry should have been more than enough to course correct. They issued a weak apology that painted the company as the victim. Ultimately, all they had to do was nothing, which is the problem. Therefore, Disney and its affiliates will not receive any of my money for the foreseeable future, not until they have the courage to stand for what is right instead of kowtowing to the pressures of an authoritarian-leaning government and to the demands of shareholder value. Story 11. Isn't it supposed to be the end of the world tomorrow? Laughing my ass off. Story 12. He is allowed back on, but only if he brings back girls jumping on trampolines to close his show. Story 13. I think it is a complete embarrassment for the American Broadcasting Company to have caved to Donald Trump in the first place. Story 14. He should double down, say no, thank you, and go to a different network. Story 15. The damage is done, the mask is off, and it is too little, too late for something that should never have happened. They have normalized capitulation to the white nationalist fascist regime. They would have to do much more than bring Jimmy back to remove that stain. Story 16. Don't rush to resubscribe or repurchase your shares. These leopards have shown their spots. Story 17. Cool, but as others have said, the damage has already been done. The American Broadcasting Company and the Walt Disney Company have stained their brands, and it will be extremely difficult, at least while Donald Trump is president, for them to regain the trust of the American people. Story 18. This proves America has a two-class system. One group has more rights than the other. Fox Broadcasting Company was not sanctioned for phrases such as involuntary euthanasia or kill them, or for other inflammatory rhetoric. Story 19. Disney can suck it. So can Nexstar or whatever its name is. I deeply hope Kimmel doesn't bow to Trump. Story 20. I didn't watch Jimmy, but I had Disney Plus just for convenience through a Verizon promotion. That now pays for my Apple television, so I bought more storage for my network-attached storage and expanded my Plex for anything Disney. Story 21. Do we really need how do you feel questions about every little piece of news that happens? Story 22. If they were willing to fire him over what he said, The people responsible should be fired as well. Story 23. I am guessing the only reason for this is people unsubscribing from Disney+. This is the roadmap. Make them lose more money by doing the wrong thing than they would lose by doing the right thing. Story 24. I did not watch the show, but the only reason they did was that he was going to join a news network with Stephen Colbert and Rachel Maddow, and they saw it as a threat. Story 25. I was just thankful for the excuse to stop paying for 2 low-value streaming services. Story 26. This is the weirdest timeline. I hate that everything is so tied to politics now. I cannot step back and pretend none of this is actually happening. It is good that they reinstated it, but it only shows how broken everything is right now. This is why we cannot have nice things. Story 27. I am somewhat conflicted. On the one hand, I am glad he is back. The whole suspension felt strange and dragged out more drama than it probably should have. On the other hand, I am curious how he is going to handle it on air. Part of me wants him to lean into it and not hold back, but I also wonder if the American Broadcasting Company is going to keep him on a tighter leash now. Story 28. I believe the American Broadcasting Company, a subsidiary of the Walt Disney Company through Disney Television Group and therefore an entity with access to an effectively unlimited legal team, should never have pulled him to begin with. Putting him back on is the least they can do and rings hollow as a gesture made only after a significant public uprising threatened their bottom-line profits. It is not a principled stand against unwarranted commentary by the chair of the Federal Communications Commission, including implicit threats, nor is it a principled stand against Sinclair Broadcast Group attempting to censor the program. The principled response to both would have been to tell the chair of the Federal Communications Commission to stand down and to warn that any interference with programming would be met in court, and to tell Sinclair Broadcast Group to run the program or to face the withdrawal of content so their stations could run dead air. People can watch Kimmel on streaming and cable. The American Broadcasting Company and Disney did not do those things. They do not get to claim moral superiority here. Story 29. Disney was poised to lose billions, so they should pay him at least $1 billion to return and save the company. Story 30. Proud of you, boycotters. I dragged my feet and was going to rummage in the basement for the Blu-ray player and search eBay for used copies of Frozen that my kids demand to watch daily. But you got it done before I got involved. I have never watched Jimmy Kimmel, by the way. This was a completely unacceptable abuse of power by the Federal Communications Commission. Story 31. They showed me who they are. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I am not resubscribing. Story 32. I'm not particularly excited or bothered, to be honest. Disney is allowing his contract to run down to appease those who boycotted his show for financial reasons. Trump has likely been told this, and Kimmel will be gone, along with The View, Myers, Fallon, and Colbert. Democrats need to find a 2004-style Obama figure for 2028 because the Make America Great Again movement controls the media more than ever. Story 33. This should never have happened. Continue boycotting them. They are only sorry it hurt their shareholders. Squeeze them dry. They will do it again. Story 34. I am happy because it gave me a push to cancel my subscription and it is not coming back. Story 35. It was a mistake for them to remove him in the first place. I wonder how much of his reinstatement was a reaction to the money they lost from canceled subscriptions. I canceled my subscription to Disney+. Story 36. I think it's important to preserve the few platforms we have left for voicing dissent. It was a good call to bring it back, but it does not restore faith in Disney. They only did it because they were hemorrhaging money from people boycotting Disney+ and Hulu. Story 37. Still boycotting. Fuck the mouse and their lack of backbone. I hope this goes beyond Jimmy and they feel it in multiple pockets. Lines have been drawn and sides have been taken very publicly by these companies. Don't forget, no matter how hard they try to cover it up with the next news story. Story 38. As they should. He did not say anything negative about Charlie. He only pointed out how poorly a certain person handled a question about it. Freedom of speech allows him to say whatever he wants as long as it is not a threat or hate speech, and it was not. Story 39. He should never have been taken off, but I am not going to sign up for Disney Plus again. Story 40. Watching the rapist and his fucking moron cult eat shit on this is gonna be awesome. Story 41. I hope Kimmel roasts the fuck out of the administration. Story 42. American Broadcasting Company claims they unscrambled an egg? It is too late. The Federal Communications Commission sent a message that it is monitoring and will punish speech critical of Make America Great Again, indicating that Federal Communications Commission regulated content must now be pro-government. We will never know if Jimmy Kimmel or anyone else regulated by the Federal Communications Commission is self-censoring for their own benefit or, more likely, for the benefit of the people who work on the show. I would like to see Kimmel come back with a Kim Jong-il style show, complete with the pink blouse announcer, reporting that Donald Trump scored a 17 on the golf course yesterday and that Charlie Kirk's vision for America is the new scripture. Story 43. It will be interesting, since Make America Great Again supporters have claimed First Amendment violations for years without proof. The closest example was the Biden administration attempting to influence social media platforms to clamp down on dangerous misinformation during the pandemic. This, however, is a clear case of government censorship under direct threat. Story 44. I do not know anyone who still watches late-night shows. Story 45. I hope he doubles down. You want to silence me? Let's go over the history of the JE files. What are you going to do, cancel me again? Story 46. I'll go back to watching Kimmel where I can for free. I'm not paying for any subscriptions that support the people and companies that had him pulled so easily. We're getting what we wanted because canceled subscriptions actually impacted these companies' bottom line. They need to understand this is a long-haul situation. Our money lines their pockets, and their willingness to bend to a minority of insecure idiots is not what we, the people, want. Their wealthy friends cannot replace the droves of dollars that suddenly stopped subscribing when they did not like the direction the company took. Billionaires and companies only have money because regular people keep sending dollars their way. If they stop getting money from us, they will have to start cannibalizing each other to protect their earthly treasures. If the wealthy keep common people happy, they can keep pretending that they are actually important. Give them bread and circuses, and they will never revolt. Juvenal, circa 55 to 127 Anno Domini, Roman poet. Story 47. I am not a fan of Kimmel or Corbett because I do not find them funny, but they seem like decent, respectable people. I am glad Kimmel and his team will keep their jobs. I cannot say the same for Corbett. Story 48. I wonder if he's been muzzled. But I can see that he did it for his workers. Disney is still going to make money one way or another. Story 49. Continue to boycott all owners and influencers of the Walt Disney Company and the American Broadcasting Company. That is taking a lot of money out of their pockets now. Their sycophantic behavior toward former President Donald Trump, to prevent him from stepping in and blocking a potentially lucrative merger, is obvious. Story 50. This is actually worse. They put the fire out, swept it under the rug, and did it again, but the next time they learned their actions were illegal rather than merely wrong. Story 51. He should deliver an over-the-top North Korean-style report, let Disney pull him, and then pay out the contract. Story 52. I actually do not care for Jimmy Kimmel or most late-night talk shows. What I do care about is that they bent the knee to a wannabe dictator in an open violation of the First Amendment and only changed course after they realized how much money they were losing. But the damage is done. They showed their true colors and how fast they fold. I will not return to any Disney content. They cannot right this wrong. Story 53. Good job to the concerned citizens of the United States who put pressure on the American Broadcasting Company and the Walt Disney Company. Story 54. Well done, Mouse. Now sue the Federal Communications Commission. It is the only way to get me back. Story 55. I will not resubscribe to Disney Plus. They can still eat shit. Story 56. Kimmel's return matters less than why he left in the first place. Story 57. It is clear they only acted because of backlash from celebrities, producers, and other Hollywood figures. Many of them signed a letter opposing his removal as a violation of free speech, and some used their platforms to encourage fans to cancel subscriptions. They seemed more concerned about losing money and losing actors and producers for future projects than about doing what was right. If they truly cared, It would not have taken a letter signed by more than 400 actors and producers to prompt action. I often agree that Jimmy Kimmel is not very funny and that he frequently interrupts guests, to the point that I wonder whether he has attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, because it would explain a lot. Nevertheless, he makes many valid points. What he said was not offensive. He questioned why the political right was working so hard to prevent anyone from associating the assassin with Make America Great Again. That was a reasonable question. Why are they insisting there is no connection? Was anyone actually trying to make that connection? It seemed like a cover-up, to be honest, but that is not the point. The side that routinely says the most extreme things and invokes freedom of speech as a defense is upset about what a late-night show host said and is removing him from the air. Not even Shakespeare could write that kind of irony. If Kimmel is going to lose his job, it should be because people genuinely dislike him, not because his comments hurt someone's feelings. If hurt feelings were a reason to lose a job, we would have a different president by now. Story 58. I'm glad he is back, especially after Make America Great Again and Donald Trump proved once again how goddamn stupid and weak they are. Story 59. Maybe all the canceled subscriptions caused the network to reconsider. The thing is, how many people are actually going to renew, saying, "We did it. We made a difference. I get my pointless sports and overpriced movie nights back so I can be a normal American again," when the entity's ideology has not changed in the slightest, and that is exactly what they want? Story 60. I do not watch it, so I do not care. He will get a slight ratings bump for a week or so, and then it will return to low ratings. Story 61. I do not like the man at all, but he should not have been punished for what he said. I think it was wrong, but it did not warrant canceling his show. Story 62. Too little, too late. I am glad they saw the error, but they never should have taken him off the air. Story 63. I've always enjoyed Jimmy Kimmel. I don't watch nightly, but I often watch clips from his shows while at work. His skits are always fun, especially when he messes with his Aunt Chippy or anything with Guillermo. The "I'm fucking Matt Damon" sketch was a classic. Also, anytime they do skits with kids like "Sorry, kids, we ate all of your Halloween candy." In general, I enjoy the humor. He seems like a good person. Watching his monologue about his son and his heart defect was really gut-wrenching. He is extremely liberal, which is fine with me, but I enjoy watching him cut down Trump and call out politicians for being jerks. Story 64. There are enough people who feel the same and are expressing it. We don't watch much television anyway. I hope the best for him. Story 65. Even if they do, Disney, Hulu, and the American Broadcasting Company are dead to me. They caved intentionally and will do it again. Fool me once. Shame on them. Story 66. Calmer, that was one step too close to restricting speech. I realized Jimmy characterized the shooter as right when he was actually wrong. In Russia, shutting down an independent station was one of the first things Vladimir Putin did. Story 67. Nothing has changed in the regime that ordered him taken off the air in the first place. Fascism has taken over the country, and companies like Disney are complicit. Story 68. They are doing it because the boycotts are working and they are losing money. Story 69. Disney lost about $4 billion. Trump will never stop going after his enemies, and this show, though I do not watch it, should not be silenced or punished because Trump demands it. Free speech, even hate speech, is allowed for Trump and his supporters, but when someone who is not a supporter of Make America Great Again says the truth, or even repeats what Make America Great Again supporters have said, they want that person punished. Enough already. Story 70. ABC needs to offer an apology and make a sizable contribution to Jimmy's chosen charity. Story 71. I have a feeling it's going to be one of his highest-rated episodes. Story 72. Disney and the American Broadcasting Company would have been lauded by liberals and leftists had they stood up to Trump and the Federal Communications Commission and forced the issue to become a Supreme Court case. Instead, they capitulated, then reversed course, and now everyone on all sides hates them. They could not have chosen a worse outcome, except perhaps if they had replaced Jimmy Kimmel Live with someone kicking puppies. Story 73. Clearly, the only thing that works on the right wing is hitting them in their pocketbook. Nothing else matters to them. You cannot buy the looks of Ms. Loomer or the tattoos of Mr. Kegsbreath with constitutional rights. Story 74. Good for them. They should never have fired him in the first place. Apparently, they placed him on leave indefinitely. This seems like people are canceling in droves. Let us see if it shows up in their earnings. Story 75. I do not care about Kimmel. I have never watched his show and will not start now that he is probably muzzled. I do care that the corporation immediately buckled under pressure from a fascist, panicked at the thought of their precious line falling, and then flip-flopped faster than any Jimmy Buffett fan I have ever met. They have no principles, and I will never give them another cent. Story 76. We have more power than the billionaires. Keep reminding the billionaires of that. Story 77. I was really surprised that he agreed to come back. It was a weak move on his part. Story 78. I hope Jimmy does not bend the knee and continues to call out Trump's nonsense every night. His monologues restore my faith that there are still sane people out there. Story 79. I am glad for several reasons, not least of which is that I can laugh at all the Make America Great Again supporters who said he was fired not because of politics but because of ratings. Story 80. I think it was an interesting move by Disney. They suspended him, secured approval for the merger, then reinstated him, relying on Trump's short attention span to lose focus on the matter. In that way, they minimized harm to themselves. Story 81. I never really watched before, but you can bet I will be watching tomorrow. It will have the biggest ratings ever. Story 82. I do not care. I did not cancel my Disney and Hulu subscriptions because I wanted Kimmel back on the air. I canceled them because these corporations have revealed themselves as collaborators, and they have lost my support for life. Story 83. I am excited to finally be able to continue ignoring Jimmy Kimmel, as I have for the past 15 years. Congratulations to him and his fans, I guess. He was certainly shafted, but his ratings have been so poor that I am surprised he was not let go sooner. Story 84. They saw their stocks drop, subscriptions canceled, and long-term fallout, with it all flashing before their eyes. Story 85. I don't watch Kimmel regularly. Usually I just watch Kimmel's or Colbert's monologue on YouTube a day or two later, but on the day of Kimmel's comeback, I'll make sure to watch it live. Fuck yeah. Story 86. He should never have been removed from television. He did not say or do anything wrong. Story 87. If he simply returns, it is probably fine. If he offers a cringeworthy apology of any sort, then he is a little bitch. Story 88. I really hope I get to see Trump lose his mind over this. He was so happy with his little victory. Story 89. The American Broadcasting Company needs to issue an apology to the country for giving in to the tyrant in the White House. Story 90. If he delivers a diluted monologue, I'll be even more annoyed because it means he capitulated. I suspect higher than usual viewership figures. Story 91. Whether you are for or against this, you should boycott Disney. I am going to Disneyland next week and would appreciate the smaller crowds. Story 92. Kimmel was never the issue. Their capitulation to threats, or worse, a philosophical agreement, is the problem. I will never return to those platforms. Story 93. It is the right thing to do, but they are not doing it for the right reasons. Story 94. I bet he will finish the season and the contract, then cut ties. Story 95. That's fine, but they've shown their hand. American Broadcasting Company, just like Paramount, showed how willing they were to cave to government censorship. That can't be undone. Story 96. No problem at all, but I am surprised Jimmy is on board after how he was treated. Story 97. Someone must have looked at the cancellation numbers for Disney, Hulu, and ESPN, as well as the cancellation of Disney Vacations, weighed them against what the Federal Communications Commission was saying, and decided that, as much as they want Channel 47 to help with the National Football League deal, they are losing money and may lose their stock options if this continues. Story 98. I am glad they caved under pressure and that he is returning to the air. They showed their true colors and whom they obeyed when they pulled him off the air. Losing money for less than a week does not send a strong enough message. They need to realize we will not tolerate fascism. Having the Disney Corporation crash and burn sends a clear message to others who want to trample on the First Amendment. Story 99. I hope they compensated him with a substantial raise and new contractual protections to ensure negligent behavior like this never happens again. Disney and the American Broadcasting Company made a serious mistake this month. They have tarnished their company's reputation in the industry and with freedom-loving people around the world. We will not welcome stories featuring Marvel superheroes and rebellions that fight empires from spineless, irresponsible companies like Disney that bow to real-life villains and empires. Story 100. It will be interesting to see whether they put a muzzle on what he says. Story 101. He is not funny. His return is due to political nonsense. Remove him from the air. Story 102. As usual, I have not watched any late-night shows. They do not appeal to me. Story 103. I think that Disney has a long way to go to earn back my trust. Story 104. I feel we need to push corporations harder. Make it really hurt their wallets so they pull back from this feudalism and we can all return to the 21st century. Story 105. If Disney wants me back and litigates this, it needs to sue the federal government. I will resubscribe. If corporations do not defend free speech, citizens will be steamrolled. Story 106. I felt the same way when they pulled him off. He's a millionaire. He'll be fine. I don't waste my time or energy on people who wouldn't help me if I were on fire. There are people who are legitimately struggling in this country. Jimmy Kimmel is not one of them. Story 107. The insistence by Make America Great Again supporters that people's boycotts do not matter is not true. I imagine that immediately after Jimmy Kimmel was canceled, Donald Trump and his allies in the Federal Communications Commission began compiling a list of additional targets to remove. There was no point in canceling him in the first place because they will keep making more demands. Story 108. Literally Mac in that one episode of Sunny. I'm playing both sides, so I always come out on top. Story 109. How are you feeling about the American Broadcasting Company putting Jimmy Kimmel back on as of tomorrow night? I couldn't care less, as I did not watch that douche in the first place. Story 110. He should never have been taken off. It was nothing more than Mickey succumbing to Donald Trump. Story 111. I could not care less about this. I do not watch talk shows unless it is the Jimmy Fallon ride at Universal Studios. Story 112. I may split the difference and resubscribe to Hulu when I see something interesting to watch. I will not resubscribe to Disney Plus, at least not in the foreseeable future. On a larger scale, I am unnerved by how few real protections we have against a totalitarian government. Everything we have in place is reactionary at best. Story 113. I am glad he is back. There was no reason for him to be fired for that, especially since the government was directly attacking his speech. Story 114. Ratings will probably spike for a week, and people will champion his return. Then we will remember that late-night shows are not must-see television, and things will return to normal as most people watch the viral clips on YouTube. Story 115. Meh. Just delaying the inevitable. His ratings are poor. Eventually the left privilege collapses under economic realities. Story 116. I thought that, based on his ratings and reprehensible speech, the cancellation was reasonable. I do not much care if they reinstate his show, but an apology would be nice. Story 117. I honestly couldn't care less, even when he was the host of the Misogynistic Man Show from 1999 to 2004. Story 118. Cancel culture can be fought with cancel culture. I'm extremely happy that the show I didn't watch is now back on the air. Story 119. It is better than leaving late night to Jimmy fucking Fallon. The first monologue will be revealing and probably the most viewed of the century. Story 120. I feel like it's a completely wasted effort if it goes back to the normal routine. Kimmel and his team have profited from normalizing insanity. They need to step up or go away. Story 121. I did not care about the decision to suspend him or to reinstate him. All of this was most likely a publicity stunt by the American Broadcasting Company to draw attention to the declining late-night show format. Story 122. If I were Mr. Kimmel, I would voluntarily walk away from the show. Remember, the president is not at war with the American Broadcasting Company. Story 123. Since the left is their only audience, it hurts when they upset them. That leaves them with only the loudest voices. Story 124. How do you feel about insert topic from the most recent news cycle for karma farming here? Story 125. Wow. Someone with left-of-center views gets a slap on the wrist while everybody acts like only one side is ever punished. I'm shocked. Never happened before. I glance at Hassan, Destiny, and Frogon. Story 126. He should not return because Disney and the American Broadcasting Company did not have his back. Many people will cancel their Disney subscriptions. What kind of people do you think watch their shows? Also, Democrats must pull the same stunts that Trump is pulling. It has been normalized by the Republican Party. Story 127. One thing I had forgotten before he was suspended was Jimmy Kimmel. I have not watched the show for at least 10 years. Story 128. I am a little tired of the 24-hour news cycle. That was major news when it happened a few days ago. In a month, I will have forgotten and found something new to be outraged about. We are so burned out. Story 129. I did not watch it before, and I am not going to start watching it now. If the American Broadcasting Company is all right with the money lost on his show, more power to them. Who cares? Not many people watch it anyway. Story 130. I feel there was a dirty deal made in the back room between Disney, the American Broadcasting Company, and the Taco administration. It does not sit well. Story 131. A slow awakening. A tipping point. I've been disappointed before, but here's hoping. Story 132. I feel slightly encouraged that it shows the way forward. We will never know for certain what happened behind the scenes, but it does give an insight into how to fight the beast. There has been a pervasive sense of helplessness, where nonviolent protest seems ineffective. But this shows that, given the right levers, we can make a change by hitting corporations and sponsors where it hurts. Forget the politicians. Focus on donors. It did not take long for Elon Musk to get the message. It appears the same strategy has worked here. It has been hugely inspirational to see so many people put their money where their collective mouths are by canceling subscriptions. Keep up the good work, everyone. Regards, an Australian who is incredibly sick and tired of seeing this bullshit. Story 133. I could not care less. I do not watch the show. Kimmel can be funny, but quite frankly, the one-sided political diatribes are tiresome. If you want to do that, create a show that competes with The Daily Show. Story 134. I hope he renegotiated his contract and asked for a raise before going back. Story 135. I think Jimmy Kimmel has no choice but to double down and keep hammering away. If he does not, he will be selling out everyone else who has skin in the game and will come after, or forcing them to surrender quietly. Story 136. Glad he's back. We need all the voices we can get roasting Trump and his administration every night for our entertainment. Story 137. Good. It has a duality of meaning. We, the people, can successfully push back against blatant attacks on freedom of speech. It is followed by the toddler of the United States being told to suck it for not getting his way. It also prevents an innocent person from being ruined over something he did not do. When all around, I say. Story 138. I do not care. Being entertained by propaganda is desperation and cringe anyway. Story 139. No suit, Jimmy. Just jeans and a mouse t-shirt where the cat has Disney ears. Story 140. If he apologizes, I hope it is as good as this video. Story 141. I am not interested in talk show hosts and have not been for about a decade. I do not watch television unless I am incarcerated, and my days of being incarcerated are over. So I feel nothing. But it is not the federal government's job to pressure companies to fire people. Blue or red tie, I do not care. Story 142. Okay. The question is whether Nexstar and Sinclair will actually broadcast Kimmel, or whether Kimmel will reach only 1/5 of the country. Story 143. I'm pretty sure the outrage over Cracker Barrel changing their logo produced a faster backtrack than the Kimmel controversy did. Story 144. We are all excited to go back to not watching Jimmy Kimmel. Story 145. I'll know once I watch the show. It needs to be sharper and more critical than ever versus this administration. Anything less is capitulation. Story 146. Honestly, I am glad he is coming back. Pulling him off the air felt like overkill and set a weird precedent for silencing late-night hosts. Even if you do not always agree with him, it is better to have the show on and let people decide for themselves than to pull it because of pressure. I am curious to see if he addresses the whole thing head on tomorrow night. Story 147. Does anyone have any doubt about the power of the people? Story 148. Everyone who thought this was censorship was wrong. The American Broadcasting Company does not need to fight the Federal Communications Commission because the commission has not taken any formal action. It was an internal matter that ended in days and was essentially an insignificant issue. Story 149. Maybe we can get rid of these influencers who keep saying that the company is trying to censor them, now that we have seen what actual censorship looks like. Story 150. I am glad he is coming back, and everyone should be, whether you like him or not, because it means our Constitution held under pressure. To me, it is a reminder not to take our freedoms for granted. They can be taken away at any moment's notice. Donald Trump is not as popular as he thinks he is. He relies on flooding the zone, endless clips of his sycophants idolizing him, and social media algorithms depicting him as our savior to trick people into thinking he is invincible, and thus we need to stand down. Both the public and corporations like Disney are more powerful than he wants them to believe when they actually show up and use that power. In this case, Disney folded after sustained public pressure and negative press, and it backtracked. Disney could have told the Federal Communications Commission to go away last week, seen no change in its finances, and avoided the reputation hit. I hope it is a lesson for other companies as well. Story 151. I am curious how the opening monologue will be. I hope he does not apologize or further neuter his material. Jimmy does not seem like the type of person who would apologize anyway. Story 152. I often watch YouTube clips. I will have to tune in live. Story 153. Hilarious. I am glad comedy is legal again, because this whole country is a joke. Story 154. This is exactly how I saw this going. I thought it would be a few days longer, but otherwise I am not even remotely surprised. Story 155. This just proves that violence and threats to get your way work. Story 156. We will see, but if Kimmel has been told what he can say and he caves to those demands, I will be very angry. He needs to stand up and be a leader in defending free speech and our constitutional rights. Story 157. Too late. They chose to kiss the ring and now they can have it. Story 158. Honestly, I'm kind of neutral. I don't watch late night as much anymore, but Kimmel has been around so long that it almost feels weird when he's not on. Story 159. The American Broadcasting Company is putting Jimmy Kimmel back on, but at the moment numerous affiliates owned by Sinclair Broadcast Group still will not be airing his show. Will this action eventually lead to the show's end? Story 160. I am thrilled. Disney proved that our money matters and boycotts work. Story 161. The damage is done. You cannot walk back past actions. Freedom of speech is a joke in America. It technically always has been. This country is fucked, and it will take over 20 years to fix the mistakes made by Donald Trump and his administration. Fuck the Republicans. Fascist assholes. Story 162. If Disney and the American Broadcasting Company really want to show they are doing the right thing, they should move Jimmy Kimmel Live to syndication like Live with Kelly and Mark. While Live with Kelly and Mark airs mostly on American Broadcasting Company stations, it is officially in syndication so other broadcasters can pick it up in some markets. I have seen a Fox Broadcasting Company affiliate carry it in one market. Disney should syndicate Jimmy Kimmel Live and The View. That way, if Nexstar or Sinclair decide not to carry them in a market, another station can air them instead. Story 163. Wait, did that happen? So the gutless company caves to the corrupt Federal Communications Commission, then caves again to consumer backlash? I do not know which is more sickening. Maybe someday they will grow a spine and do the right thing. Story 164. As if with a laugh track, they're burying the First Amendment. I can't believe the majority tolerates this. We have a bub running the country and another pulling the strings from behind the scenes. I can ask for more. Story 165. It's good that this happened. One huge risk is that what happened to Kimmel could happen to anyone on YouTube, Reddit, or any other social platform, even for comments critical of the regime. Imagine getting our Reddit accounts banned for life due to criticisms of the Trump regime, and let's not pretend this is not on their radar. Not to mention artificial intelligence services such as Chat Generative Pre-trained Transformer, commonly known as ChatGPT. Do people really think Trump is not trying to shake them down too? They could allow only pro-Trump responses, falsify climate science, and so on. Story 166. Give them nothing back. Lessons mean nothing when they still receive their money. Story 167. I have never watched him, but the fact that white supremacists are seething and struggling to cope makes me want to start. Story 168. Do not watch. It will be interesting if he starts tap dancing. Story 169. Too late. I will not subscribe to Disney Plus or Hulu again. Once a capitulator, always a capitulator. Story 170. I hope Kimmel comes out and burns the house down, insulting everyone and everything. Trump, his cronies, and everyone at the American Broadcasting Company and the Walt Disney Company for not having a backbone. I would hope his new deal with the company includes that clause. Story 171. I knew they had reinstated JK before they released the Epstein files. Story 172. I did not agree with him being punished for his opinion. I was hoping someone funnier would take his place. Story 173. I feel they are greedy cowards, but this is a victory that will make Trump absolutely livid. I will watch Kimmel occasionally and be happy knowing of Trump's outrage. Story 174. If Disney makes a clear stand against fascism, rather than crumpling under pressure in the name of profit, I might consider paying for a Disney product again in my lifetime. Story 175 about fucking time. I hope Colbert airs a rerun and that Kimmel roasts Donald Trump, the Federal Communications Commission, and the still radioactively racist corpse of Kirk on a spit. Story 176. It's a good move, but Jimmy Kimmel doesn't really matter. What matters is that the government faced no repercussions for doing this. Story 177. The unfunny guy worth $50 million is back to getting paid. Big whoop. Story 178. I don't care. I never watched Jimmy Kimmel. The current crop of late-night hosts is nowhere near as funny as Jay Leno. Story 179. I believe the American people have found a way to effect real, meaningful change. Consumers' lack of choice has consolidated users into a few conglomerates. Because a large portion of the populace is signed up for services such as Amazon, Walmart, or Netflix, the effects are magnified. When they encroach on freedoms, we take away their revenue. They want that revenue. For example, if a large portion of the population has an Amazon Prime account and Amazon does something the American people do not like, then a relatively small section of the population can affect real change. Now we know how to address it. Story 180. Disney lost $4 billion in 5 days. Jimmy Kimmel deserves to stay regardless of his viewpoints. Disney caved, and that is a win in my book. Additionally, Jimmy Kimmel could have sued Disney and won. Story 181. Small win. I am not sure who still watches late-night talk shows, but I am going to tune in for his monologue and whatever meltdown the political right has between now and then. Story 182. It doesn't change anything. His ratings were already very low. He will be cancelled again soon enough. Story 183. It doesn't matter. The rapture happens tomorrow anyway. Story 184. Delaying the inevitable. Late-night television is dying. It probably would have been kinder for the American Broadcasting Company to cancel the show rather than lose more money. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.